Hello and thank you for joining me this afternoon. I wanted to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and communities across the landscapes. And secondly, I wanted to thank the conveners and chairs of this symposia this afternoon. And for this talk, I'll be discussing Ideacology, a web face that we've developed to inform ecological decision making. To give a bit of context, expert consultation is used to inform a range of conservation, natural resource management applications, and ecological decision making. For example, it's used in threatened species listings, assessing management actions, and environmental and ecological impact assessments. A well-known expert panel was put together earlier this year that identified the species with the highest priorities for action to support recovery from the recent wildfires earlier this year. And it's a frequently used tool to augment and expedite empirical resources where they're lacking, and it's particularly important in times of rapid change. However, expert judgments are often informal and prone to contextual biases, and this may be due to the practical or financial constraints of getting all the experts in one room. And one way to address this is using structured elicitation protocols. And these are a means of mitigating the biases and also improving the accuracy and transparency of the resulting judgments made. However, there is an additional need to have demonstrable transparency in the decision making and also in the experts. And lastly, a need for statistical robust estimates. And what I mean by this is that we need reliable, informative, aggregated estimations with credible intervals with a probabilistic or quantitative response. And while there are a number of expert elicitation protocols out there, the IDEA protocol uses a structured elicitation process, and this is distilled into 4 key components. Firstly, investigate, discuss, estimate, and aggregate. And to walk you through, this firstly involves recruiting a diverse group of experts. And each expert then investigates a question and clarifies their meanings and provides their initial best estimate and associated credible intervals. The experts then get feedback on their estimates in relation to other experts, and with the help of a facilitator, the experts then discuss the results, resolving any differences in opinion or judgments based on cross-examination, reasoning, and evidence. And these then provide the experts then provide a second and final private estimate. And then lastly, these individual estimates are then combined into a single aggregated estimate. So to break this down further, it's important to frame these expert judgments using a quantitative question. And this means that you're not using qualitative scores, vote counts, opinions, or ranking. And to avoid anchor biases, we ask the quantitative question in a particular way. So for example, you firstly ask what's the lowest plausible value, the highest plausible value, what the best estimate is, and then lastly, how confident that expert is around their decision making. So the IDEA protocol has been used in expert elicitations, and it's been identified that there's room for improvement. So people involved in these expert elicitations have identified there's been difficulties in communicating knowledge in numbers or probabilities, in particular providing best estimates, and there has been inconsistency and perhaps confusion about interpreting the estimated bounds and the confidence. And it's also is critical to provide opportunity to cross-examine the estimates of their peers in a two-way interaction and reduce the ambiguity through discussion. And lastly, identified the value of using a diverse group of experts. And this is where Ideacology steps in, and we had a number of objectives to meet. firstly to simplify the elicitation process, meet ethical and confidentiality requirements, foster transparent discussion amongst experts, facilitate the management of data, collect demographic information on experts as well as background information on the ecological question, provide a repository of relevant resources, and then lastly, report back to experts of these aggregated estimations. And to address these objectives, we've developed an intuitive, simple interface to facilitate the uptake of expert judgments across a range of ecological and conservation decision making. It's a customizable interface, which means that it is cost effective and provides quantitative assessments across a range of questions. It is equally effective in person, but also remotely. So this means that we're able to recruit a wider diversity of experts that may not be able to make it in the room, but can join the Zoom room. It also doesn't require any specialized kit to operate or technicians, and it is multiple device and browser compatible. So to show you IdeaCology and its capabilities in action, we've been using it in an ARC linkage project, Living on the Edge. And this project has been investigating plant adaptive capacity and predicting how plants will respond to climate change within 50 years using expert knowledge. So this first page shows you the introductory page, and then it leads into the elicitation. So here we've got a temperate rainforest round, and we're predicting how Ackmena smithii will respond to climate change. And there's capability to provide background information, for example, from PlantNet or Australian Living Atlas. And to remove that anchor bias, there's a set order that the expert can answer questions. Firstly, with the lowest estimate, the highest estimate, and then lastly, the best estimate. And on the left-hand side, you can see how within a 100 by 100 meter plot, how that species would be distributed. And then in the right-hand side, the expert can provide reasoning of why they've provided that distribution. And then in response to climate change, the expert then provides their future predictions using the lowest, highest, and best estimate. And in the comments box are able to provide their predictions and reasoning for why they predict a increase, decrease, or no change. And lastly, they're able to provide a commentary on their confidence. So this is how confident they are in their decision making, their experience working with that particular taxon, and then also uploading resources, in particular papers or distribution data that they might have worked with. And so this provides that initial investigation estimate from individual experts. And then this then leads to a discussion and aggregation of those estimates. So I'll play a short video of experts discussing this particular species and myself as a facilitator.
We'll now go to Ackmena smithii. This will be an interesting one. In terms of the current estimates, these are between, we've got a few that are above 20%, but most are 20% or below, and quite a number are sitting around their best estimates around the 10% mark. And then in terms of the future estimates, there's quite a mix again. So we've got increases, decreases, a couple of fence sitters as well. And what I might do is I will start with Karen here, and you've got it as it's staying stable over time.
It's an interesting one. So this it's an interesting one. So this one has desiccation sensitive seed. So you would think maybe that it's going to be a problem for it if the environment dries out, but it has really long-lived plants and it can resprout. And I found one herbarium specimen from Peter Jobson that said observed that was regenerating after fire. So I'm thinking that its restriction to rainforest is probably due to the desiccation sensitive seeds, but it can tolerate dry conditions once it's established as an adult. So I think maybe within the 50-year period, we might not see a change because the adults are fairly tough once they're established, but we might start seeing a change more after that. So I'm a little bit unsure which way it's going to go, so I've stayed in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of nicely shows you one expert providing their reasoning and judgments for why they've provided their estimate, and what followed was all of the experts discussing, and then from there they then revise their final estimates, and then this leads into a single aggregated estimate. So those videos quite nicely show you the applications of the IdeaCology interface and its ability to address a range of ecological and natural resource management questions. However, the caveat is that it must have a quantitative estimate, and this enables the statistical assessment of effects of variation among species on that final aggregated estimate. And there's also capability of including calibrated data, for example, in that previous project using data from the Atlas of Living Australia to calibrate the experts. And some of the capabilities or research questions that could be looked at are differences in adaptive capacity, abundance, diversity, distribution, and community composition. There's also capability of comparison between habitats, climate scenarios, or management interventions. So there are a number of outcomes that are available by using the IdeaCology interface. It's been designed specifically to improve the uptake and application of structured expert judgments to inform ecological and conservation decision making. It provides a consensus of expert forecasting with recommendations for future directions in research and management. And lastly, it enables the strong links and potential for collaboration between researchers, industry, and government to assist in management. So I just wanted to thank the various partners that are involved in this project, in particular Ben Dubov and the team at Lightning Rock for the development of the IdeaCology interface, and improvements to the interface have occurred through several expert elicitations and feedback provided from participants, both held in person and online. And I am personally funded by the Living on the Edge ARC linkage project. So I'm sure you're itching to know more. The interface will be publicly available early next year, and next year we'll be keen to visit, hopefully in person, if not remotely, to discuss potential applications. And it will be available with a license to support the hosting and secure storage of data. I'll be setting up a mailing list, so if you'd like to be included on said list, please put your email in the chat section below or email me. Thank you very much.